Hello and welcome to another episode, and in this lesson we are going to be looking at raycasting and teleporting. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm on the VR prefabs. I'm going to add the OVR camera rig. So same as what we've normally done. I'm just going to open this out, tracking space, same as always. I'm only using my right controller, so I'm just going to do my right controller hand today. I'm just going to drag that on to the right hand anchor. There we go. Just like before, I'm going to click on this and just choose the right touch. But to make it a little bit easier to see now, so if I want to zoom right in, I'm just going to click on all of these. I'm just going to turn them off, except the right hand touch. Bring that one back on. And there we go, I can just see the one controller now. Okay, so we're going to use this to emit our raycast and teleport from. So I'm going to add a new component, C# script, new. I'm just going to call this teleporter. And once that's finished compiling, I'll be able to launch that and start adding some code. Okay. Okay, so here we are. We've got our teleporter code. I'm going to start by just adding some variables. So I'm just going to copy and paste these from another project. So we've got our ray length, so that is how far do we want our raycast to actually go. You might want to play about with these numbers, but 10 seems to work for me for now. Delay is how long are we going to see the little actual, we're going to draw a ray on screen. Are we about to teleport, so are we holding the button down? And finally, where are we teleporting to? Okay, so I'm just going to come down to our update function. I've got the raycast hit, so this is going to be where, that was a mistake. Where is the ray actually hitting, if it's hitting at all? Just going to change those a little bit. There we go. So that should be all right now. So I've got if our Oculus controller, if we're pressing button 1, which in this case is my A button, just have a quick look, yep, A button. If I'm currently holding down, it's going to start doing the raycast. It's going to start raycasting from the transformed dot position. So if we're back in Unity, it's coming from where I've attached the code to, so it's coming from this actual model of the controller. It's coming from the prefab. Obviously, I could add an empty if I wanted to. So I've now got the raycast. What I want to now do is set some variables up, which should be fairly straightforward. Let's have a quick look. So I've got about to teleport equals true. This means I'm holding the button down, so I'm about to teleport when I release the button. And we're going to teleport to wherever we've hit. So if we look, we've got the position of the controller. It's looking forwards from the controller. It's going to output the hit position, a few other things. And we're going to emit the ray, our ray length times 10. Again, these are numbers you might want to play with, but they seem to work for me okay. Now, so we can see on screen where we're looking, I'm just going to use a line. So again, I'm just copying code from another project. Saves me from typing it in front of you. So I'm creating a line. We're going to start drawing the line at our transform position, so the same point where we're emitting from. And then we're going to add the line renderer to this instance. The next bit is a material. What's it actually going to look like? Now it's going to complain because the TMAT does not exist. TMAT for me is a bit my clumsy way of saying a temporary material. So I just forgot to add that up here. So I've now got a material called TMAT. Like I said, temporary material. Might want to change that later on. So now I want to set this up a little bit. Yep, there we go. Just grab some other bits of code. So these little bits of code, it's only going to be 0, 1 width. We can make it so it goes wider as we go along, it's narrower. I'm setting the start position, which of course is where we're coming from, and then the hit dot point is wherever we've made contact. Okay, so this will now, like I said, as soon as we start pressing the button, it's going to start drawing that. I've missed a little bit out, I'm going to have to come back to that in a moment. But let's just make sure that's saved okay. So what we could now do is come back into our code program and just make sure that that's actually working. Now, before I build and run, I need to add a material. Now I've already got one. This was just created a material. And I've just simply made it sort of purpley, and I've just dragged that onto the controller. So I've just dragged it, sorry, not to there. I just dragged it onto this script, or I'm about to. drag it onto the script, and now I can press build and run. Don't forget, of course, to go into your build settings, make sure you add your current scene, and then press build and run. I'm just going to make mine the next one along. I shall be with you in a moment. Okay, so I'm in the game. You can see that I'm actually in the ground because I forgot to change all the settings, but I can test it anyway. If I press the A button, we can see our ray is casting. Now it's only casting if it physically hits something. So obviously if I go away from the walls, it's no longer emitting a beam. Okay, so we're back in the editor. So I'm just going to go back onto our camera rig. I'm just going to come down here and change to floor level. While I'm here, I'll very quickly change that to quest as well. Controllers only, yep, that's fine. Okay, so what I want to do is make a few changes to the code. I only want it to actually look at the ground. We don't want to try and teleport into a wall. So I'm going to change a little bit. I'm just going to come back into Unity. I'm going to just zoom out a little bit. Now I've already done this on this version. If I click on the ground itself, I want to add the tag. So if you're not sure how to add a tag, we can go add tag. You can just write it in by pressing the plus sign. I'm calling mine ground. You could call yours whatever you want, you know, teleportable or something. So now click back on the ground and make sure you have selected the tag. So now back in our code again, I want to write some code in that's going to just say if it's the ground, we want to do something. So if I just type that in, if hit collider.gameObject.tab is the ground, we can now do this little bit of code. So if it's the ground, we're going to get this colour, we're going to get this ray. We're going to set the about teleport is true. Well, what if it's not the ground? So put an else statement in. I'm going to make sure that we turn off the about to teleport, because we don't want to sort of release the button if we're not about to teleport and it suddenly zip us somewhere else. So I'm saying about to teleport equals false. I'm just creating a temporary vector, which is just going to be the position where we start, and then I'm transforming it by the ray length. So it's going to give us a ray 10 units long, whether we're hitting something or not. And that way it gives the user something to actually see what they're up to. And again, the rest of it's all the same. I'm creating the line. This time I'm actually setting the colour to red instead. Again, same width, set position. I'm just going to come back to that in a little while. So I'm just going to save that file. I'm going to go back into Unity and let's just see if this now works. What we're expecting to see is the line changing colour depending on if it's pointing at the ground or not. Okay, so we can see we're back in the game world, and if I press A, we've got the pink line because it's not hitting anything, but now as soon as we touch the ground, it's gone blue. So we know, well, in a little while, when we release the button, it should teleport us to that spot. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I'd like us to have some obvious point on the floor that says where we're going to teleport to. So I've already created a little cube. What I'd recommend is you actually just change this to something slightly more interesting than just a little cube. You can see I've got created the cube, I've called it pointer, and now what I'm going to do is go back onto our code. I'm going to add that as a public game object. So if I just go public game object, and I'm going to call it pointer. I'm not spelled like that, I'm not. If I press save, and you could see what I'd already done earlier. In fact, I'm not going to have it there anymore. I'm just going to get rid of that line altogether. That was a little test that I did earlier for debugging purposes. But I'm just going to have this. But rather than v1, it's going to equal our hit dot point. So again, it's going to be the point on the ground, hopefully. It's going to leave it, if we release the button, it will leave it in the last known position. So again, I'm going to Control S. So if I just grab the pointer, drag it across, and now I can go and try. Okay, so here we are. We can see the blue cube up in the air, but as soon as I press A, it's still there until I touch the ground, and now it follows my spot. So again, I would replace the cube with something slightly more interesting. Then when we release the button, we want to teleport to that point. Okay, so our last bit now is to obviously make it teleport. So I'm going to go back into our code. So obviously we've already got we're pressing down the A button through the get input. We've said we're about to teleport, so of course that means you've got the ray over somewhere that is true, somewhere you're allowed to. If you point somewhere else, you can't teleport. So what we just now need is one more if statement. So if we just bring this into here, we just want a little function that will say, have you released the button? So I've now got if OVR input, I'm just going to comment out that for a moment. If the input gets up, so we've released the A button and about to teleport is true, then we're just going to say, right, we can't teleport anymore because we've already teleported, and now we're going to transform the position. Now I'm saying transform the position of the player. Now, the reason why it's complaining is because the player doesn't exist yet. If I just come back up to the very top, I'm going to have another one called public game object player. We could just write some code that gets the player, but I prefer to assign it through the Unity interface. So if I come back onto there, just wait for that to finish compiling. Okay, so again, I've got to open this out. And now we've got the player, no game objects. If I just drag the OVR camera rig over to that, we should now be able to teleport just fine. So again, let's go and test that bit of code. Okay, so let's give this a little test. I'm going to teleport over there, and there we go. I've jumped over to that spot. Have a look down. There's the teleport pad that I landed on. So now we can move around our little scene. Obviously, there's a little problem though, because if we just leave that over there, it kind of remembers where we last wanted to go to, which is not ideal, but I'm sure you can have a little play with that, see if you can make it a little bit nicer. Okay, so that concludes this little session in how you can do a raycast and a teleporter. It leaves you with plenty of opportunities to how you can improve this now, but you can move around your scene either using the thumbstick or through teleportation. You can fire guns, so please go ahead, have a go at making your own simple little game. And again, if you've liked this video, please press like, subscribe, and leave a positive comment below. See you next time.